Hey guys, my name's Robin. Welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to be talking all about how I saved $100,000 by the age of 25 on a low income. So I actually achieved this goal while making about $45,000 to $50,000 Canadian per year from the ages of 22 to 25. That was my salary. So if you're also on this kind of salary and you're wondering, is it possible for me to save $100,000 in just a few short years? I'm here to tell you that yes, it is absolutely possible. Keep in mind though that everyone's circumstances are a little bit different, but if you are similar to me, single, working 9 to 5, making this kind of income, then yes, you can absolutely do this, and I'm gonna outline to you exactly how. Alright, so I want to take you back to the beginning of my financial journey, which began when I was 22 years old and I had just graduated from university with a degree in journalism. I had no student loans, but I also had no money, and I was also super stressed out because I had no idea what I wanted to do with my life. That summer that I was graduating, I was also just finishing up an internship as a content writer at a very corporate style work environment. And previous to that, leading up to it, the whole year, I thought that this internship was gonna be amazing. I thought I was gonna be so good at it, get hired, and bam, that would be my career. But guess what? I ended up not really liking this internship very much, and that is no shade to that place. It just really wasn't for me. So I was essentially starting from zero. I had no money, no job, and no idea what I was gonna do with my life. But that's the funny thing about life is no matter where you are or whether or not you have anything together, the one thing that you always need is money. Long story short, about a month later, I very randomly came across this company called VIP Kid that was looking for people to teach English to kids in China remotely from their laptops. And it was so different from anything I'd ever done before that I was just drawn to it. And yeah, it was supposed to be a temporary job, but it was so much fun. I ended up doing it for 3 years before transitioning into design, which is what I do now. But yeah, now you have a bit of context on who the heck I am and what I did. And now you know that I didn't inherit any money. I didn't buy crypto in 2010. Like, most of this money came from teaching English to tiny humans in China. Okay, so let's get into the good stuff. So the first thing that you are going to have to do is have a high savings rate. So aim to save about half your income. I'm predicting that I saved about $20,000 to $25,000 per year at this time, and obviously that doesn't add up to $100,000, but I invested all of that money, so it turned into $100,000 in the stock market. Okay, so you might have heard this tip before, but I have to say it because it is the one thing that's gonna make the biggest difference when it comes to your savings, and that's gonna be reducing your biggest expense, which is housing, probably. So yeah, live at home, live with relatives, or I mean, you don't have to live at home. That's what I did, but you can also just find a cheap place to rent, get roommates. Trust me, it's gonna make a really big difference, and we're only really talking about doing this for a few years, and yeah, your future self will really thank you. And trust me when I say I know that this is not the most ideal situation for a lot of people in their early 20s. I used to have major dreams about living in a really nice condo in downtown Toronto. That was my goals, and I used to look at pictures online and like plan out how I would decorate it. And then I realized that the rent was just so expensive that by the time I'd be paying my rent and living expenses, I wouldn't have anything left to save. So yeah, I chose to live at home, and now I'm really glad that I did, because at 26, I can afford to live anywhere I want, and I'm almost close to being able to afford to buy a condo with a down payment. So yeah. And I just want to say I'm super grateful to be able to live at home, and I understand that not everyone has that privilege. You don't need to live at home to reach this goal. But if you have a good relationship with your parents and you want to live at home, then yes, do it. Try not to listen to any of the shame that might come your way. I know society likes to shame young people for living at home with their parents, but I just think that's so unfair, especially if you live in a city with a high cost of living, like Toronto, for example, where the average house sells for over $1 million. Like, that is so crazy. Okay, so now we're going to talk about one of my favorite topics to talk about, and that is minimalism. So, I could tell you all of these like tiny little tips and tricks to save money that I know that we've all heard before, like make your coffee at home, don't go to Starbucks, don't buy a new car, don't do this, don't do that. And honestly, the problem that I have with this mindset is that you're just giving yourself all of these rules to follow, saying no to yourself, restricting yourself. At the heart of it, that's not really what all of this is even about, right? This is about freedom, financial freedom. So I would challenge you to really challenge your entire perspective when it comes to consumerism and minimalism. Practice gratitude in your everyday life and truly believe that you can be 100% content with what you already have. This is the mindset shift that I had on my financial journey to 100K, and it really changed my habits. And I was not always a minimalist. I used to buy a lot of clothes, a lot of makeup, a lot of hair products. There's the Diderot effect where you buy one thing and it makes you want to buy something else, which makes you want to buy something else. Like you buy the dress and then you got to buy the matching shoes and suddenly you need a new purse. If you can get yourself to a place where intentional spending comes from a place of wanting to do so and not a place of forcing yourself to do so, it's going to be so much easier, and then you won't have to remember all of these little rules on what you can and cannot do. Instead of saying, no, you can't do this, no, you can't do that. No, you can do whatever you want, but you choose to do this because financial freedom is important to you. I feel like a lot of people in the online space that talk about finance have like really fancy color-coded Excel sheets. I don't really do any of that. Like, I keep my budgeting super simple. I get that it would be helpful if you have a lot of expenses in a lot of different categories and it's hard to keep track of, but I just basically give myself one number for the whole month, and I do the math ahead of time. Like, if I know I want to invest like $25,000, I take that, I subtract that from my income, subtract the taxes, and then I split it up so I know, like, okay, this number per month is what I can spend, so like $1,800, for example. I just made that up, but if you were to only live off of $1,800 per month, that would be about, $21,000 per year. And if you're making $45,000 to $50,000 a year, that's enough to invest a good amount, right? So do the math ahead of time. And then I do always check. So after I buy something, I do check my bank account really frequently. And I only have one credit card, so it's really easy to check. I don't like keeping track of a whole bunch of credit cards. So yeah, that's what I do. And it's never a surprise at the end of the month when I get my statement. But budgeting is really more of a personal thing, so do what works for you in this category. I'm not a strict budgeter, but I'm strict with that one allowance that I give myself. The next thing I'm going to be talking about is how I rewarded myself throughout the whole process. I feel like this is kind of opposite to what I said about minimalism, but don't get me wrong, like minimalism is about being minimal, but you still buy things, like just not all the time, right? So this next topic that I'm going to talk about is how I rewarded myself, and basically I chose to reward myself in increments of $10,000. So every time I saved $10,000, I would buy myself something nice. And it wasn't particularly super expensive. Usually it was just like a few $100s, but just something nice to kind of help keep me motivated. If you're starting from zero and trying to get to $100,000 or even $10,000, $20,000, $30,000, trying to get to $100,000, that can seem like, pretty far away. And yeah, giving myself this reward just really motivated me all the way through. Now we're going to talk about where the magic happens, and that is through investing. So if you want to become wealthy, you have to invest in assets. I chose the stock market. Trust me, you do not need to be an expert to invest in the stock market. I was not, I am not. But if you're just getting started and you don't want to do research on individual stocks because they can be risky, you can lose money, I recommend going with ETFs. So the S&P 500 is the one that I went with. It's basically 500 of some really solid companies. It pays a dividend and on average returns about 7% per year. It's really safe, so you can just dump thousands of dollars in there, you will be fine. Just remember that it's long term, so when it goes down, do not sell. It's really safe, so it's probably gonna go back up. And if it does go down a lot due to life circumstances like war or COVID, that means that the ETF is on sale and you should actually buy more. How do I start investing? So I could basically do a whole other video on this, but it is super straightforward. I personally just went to my bank and I opened up a direct investing account. The accounts that you would use in Canada would be the tax-free savings account and RSP. I put most of my money in my tax-free savings account, so that's what I used. Just be aware that there is a contribution limit. I believe it's like $6,000 per year. And if you go over that, they like charge you for it. And yeah, that's what I use for the majority of my investing. They do charge like $10 per trade. I think that depends on what platform, what bank you go with, but that's what they charged me to trade. And so recently I opened up a Wealthsimple account because they don't have any of those trading fees. So if you're interested in investing and you want to go with Wealthsimple, I do have a referral code where you can get some free stock if you're interested, but essentially you can open one up at any bank, at any platform that does this, and it's super straightforward. The next thing you need to do in order to achieve this goal is you need to be consistent with everything that I'm telling you. So consistently saving, consistently investing, consistently keeping that minimalist mindset, and I promise you, you will eventually get there. And it's not even so much about the timeline. Really what this is about is forming really good financial habits for the future. Like if you focus on the habits, you will get there, you will get to that goal eventually, and it will be sooner than you think, and it will feel amazing. So thank you guys so much for watching. I hope this video was helpful, and I will see you next time.